So it's giving her some more time to build a relationship with this dog, because dogs really do, they form the connection when you help them grow. Humans too, if you can help someone grow from like one phase of their life to the next phase, they'll remember it forever. And dogs are the same way. If you help them overcome a fear, if you help them to teach them how to paint, like this pig I taught was extremely fearful. Now she loves people because they paint with her all the time, right? And so just doing these things with them has allowed my girlfriend just a better connection with the dog, and the dog a better connection with her too.
Everybody knows that I love dogs. And then a little bit about my dog journey. I didn't get my first dog, Raja, up until I want to say 2018. So up until those years, I was like, it's just a dog, or like, why are you being so weird? Or anytime I see a dog meme, I'm like, I don't get this. And then I got my first dog, and changed my life. Changed my life for the better. Unfortunately, passed away, but that led me onto another journey, which is my rescue life and getting connect today. So, like I always say, I'm excited for the guests that we have on the show. Even today, I'm even a little bit more excited just because like we get to talk shop and we get to talk dogs. So I want to introduce everybody to our amazing guest, who is the founder and CEO, the dog trainer of New Direction Dog Training, all the way in Austin, Texas. An amazing person. You definitely got to follow his socials and follow the way that he has that amazing aura about himself, because like I remember when we did the pre-chat, I was just so amazed by how many things Brady's accomplished and the things that he's going to be doing. So without further ado, I know I'm pumping the brakes and I'm talking a lot about him, but let's bring him on. We have our good friend here, Brady Foulk, joining us on the Logistics Monk Show. What's going on, brother?
Hi. I just want everyone to know before we start this thing, if you're here because you want your dog to listen better, you're in the right place. I want you to just nod your head and smile. You're here, right? And if you're here because you want your dog to listen better, but not just listen better, you wish you had your dream dog, the dog that you've imagined, right? You can smile again because you're also in the right place. So my name is Brady. I help empower puppies, dogs, and their owners to have more success at home and around town while having fun while doing it. So again, congratulations, you guys are here. I'm happy to help serve, and I'm happy to be here with you, Brian.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. I love that little intro that you just gave there, Brady, because I think, for everybody, there always needs to be a purpose, a reason why they're listening. And we just hooked them all in. So let's get right into it, brother. I always ask people, like how did you find dogs? Did you grow up with dogs? What is your, as the comic book nerds say out there, what is your origin story?
I love it. Yes, I do want to share my origin story, and I'll show you how I went from zero to hero, right? At first, I just want to kind of pre-frame everyone. Did you know the average dog can learn 165 words? 165, right? That's Chihuahuas, Pomeranians, Australian Shepherds, Border Collies. So I have a feeling that your dog can maybe learn 20, 30 words quite easily, and maybe you don't know it yet. And then the second part is we have passive versus active learning. I like to move myself. I hope that you'll be moving with me. Give me a couple smiles while I'm talking. And just so you know, for dogs and humans, they did some studies. If you just learn something repetitive, right, it takes about 300 to 400 repetitions for it to click in your brain, right? Now, if you just add some play and like you raise your hand up, you pat yourself on your back, and you celebrate for being here right now, you can cut that time down to 30 to 40 repetitions to put that seed in your brain. So same for our dogs, same for us, right? So I just want to prime everyone to know that we are going to do some learning today.
I love that. This is gonna be so engaging, because even myself as a dog owner, I have 3 dogs myself. I'm definitely gonna pick up some tricks. Like you mentioned, like a bunch of words that we can definitely learn. Like I feel like mine's is leave it, no, stop it. What did you do? Why? And all these different words. But we're all here to be better. So with that being said,
Yeah.
let's get right into it. I would love to learn a little bit about how did you find out about like being able to have those dogs and want to enable them and want to empower them and empower yourselves too, because having a dog is not easy, my friend. Would you agree with that?
Most definitely. So if you guys don't mind, I will share my story now. It'll take maybe 5, 10 minutes to give you some background, because I grew up with dogs, right? And some of you have, some of you may not. But growing up with dogs, I thought I just thought dogs were dogs, right? You feed them, you take them out, they run away sometimes, they eat your trash, and that's just having a dog, right? And I remember I would get home from school and I would get off the bus, and my mom would be like, "Get in the car, we got to go find the dogs. They ran away again." And so that was my life. And I just thought that was normal. So when I turned, I was like 21. I think I got my first dog 2017. And I was like, this is going to be a walk in the park, right? All I need to do is just be better than my parents and like my family, right? Go on more walks, better
Yeah.
treats, crate training, all these things, right? And as I did it, it didn't work. It did not work. My dog ate my carpet. He ate my favorite Tim Ferriss book. I bought my dad a Father's Day present. And it was this leather duffel bag. It's super nice. It was like in a box, inside a box, inside a box in my closet. And my dog, he was like maybe 6 months old, 7 months old, and running around my room. And sure enough, he smelt the leather and broke into the boxes. And like I came home and I'm like, why? Why me? Like I got you the best treats. I pay $100 a bag for your food. Like you sleep in my bed. And so from that moment, I hit my rock bottom, right? Like all my stuff was destroyed, my carpet. I'm like, there goes my $1,000 deposit. I need to do something about this. So sure enough, I listened to a Tim Ferriss podcast. I listened to a woman. I actually ended up meeting her later in my journey. But her name is Susan Garrett. She's phenomenal. And I took those things. I started learning from her. She became my mentor. And I was able to turn my dog from a wild animal that he sometimes didn't poop or pee inside the house, but he still had his accidents,
Yeah.
to my dream dog, to where he just loves coming when called. I don't have to have a treat to bribe him. He just comes to me, and then I can give him a treat, or I could just give him some love sometimes. And he understands uh, that value that I bring to his life. And the faster that he does what I want him to do, the faster I can give him what he wants to do. And so as I went on this journey, I just kept adding things, right? And even then, it didn't go perfect. There was another hiccup in the journey, right? Where it really tests your character. It goes, are you really going to double down on doing what you're going to do? Or are you going to just be like, I don't care, right? You just be a dog. And he started eating our Wi-Fi cable, and it was a huge fight between me and my roommate. But that was the second kind of spark that sent me on even further down dog training to start helping other people. Once I got this problem solved, and uh, going to training, I trained a pig to paint. I've worked with aggressive dogs. I've worked with puppies. I have a guinea pig myself, and she comes when called, and like, it's super fun. So once you learn these little tricks in the brain, and sometimes it's just having the awareness that your dog is capable of learning. And most people, like you would probably agree, your dog probably is really smart,
Yeah.
and there's way more capacity to learn. So as I just became just obsessed with this idea of like, what else can I teach my dog? Can I teach him to open up a fridge and bring me a water bottle? I can. What? Like, this is so cool. Can I teach him how to like jump through my arms? Of course. Can they stand on my back? Yeah. And then it just becomes more and more fun, and then the bond just gets deeper and deeper. So that's my from uh terrible, right? I was just so sad when he ate all my stuff. Rock bottom, for a lack of a better word. I don't know if anyone else here has felt like they're at rock bottom with their dog. They
Yeah.
don't know what to do.
Yep.
So I want you to know that over these next 30, 40 minutes, if you're okay with it, I'll be sharing some more tips and tricks of actually how I got my dream dog.
Yeah.
So
No, I love that,
that's
and
my
I want to
origin story.
acknowledge. I love that. I love that origin story. I feel like it's very similar. It's very like movie esque too. It's just that guy. He moves out. He gets his first dog. And then he starts eating everything, and then they build that lifelong relationship. Um, you said something so nonchalantly that I want the audience to like. I feel like they perked up a little bit when I perked up too, and I know what you know what I'm gonna say, but you taught a pig to paint. What?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a year-long journey. It wasn't like overnight, but she's now raised over 5,000. Maybe it's even more than that. They did like a silent auction for her paintings recently, for the nonprofit that she's at. So she paints every single day. She loves it.
Oh, that is amazing, man. And the capacity of it, right? And we can like you mentioned, a couple things we'll talk about on this episode, but there's so many ways that we can go with this. I think about because like I
Yeah.
know here in Canada, we talk about the rescue world. It's an unfortunate situation, like
Hmm.
shelters everywhere is at capacity, and like people are quick to rehome their dogs from them being a dog, or not being trained like to live that way, right? And people, if they have like an accidental bite, or like if they eat some, like their shoes or something like that, they're quick to do that. And then you think about, well, how many I know this is a bad parallel, but how many times are you gonna let McDonald's screw up your order, and you're still gonna go back, and it's just like you think about if you put that time and effort into training. So
Yeah.
like we said, the intention for today's episode is really to build that bond and make your dog that dream dog that you love. So I'll let you take it, man. Let's hear it. I'm looking for. I got my pen and paper. I'm gonna be writing down as we go along.
Yeah, I like to just frame people too. We're paying for it either way. Like I wasn't paying for dog training at the time, but I paid for it by replacing the leather bag, replacing the book, playing the
Yeah.
carpet. So either way, so we're paying for it somehow. So, but I want to talk about my dream method. This is a 5-part program that I base all my training around, and it's what I teach my clients. So I'll give you guys the first 3 parts. If you want more, I'll drop a QR code at the end. But the D for dream, it stands for do land. Now, a quick story. I went whitewater rafting a few years ago with some friends. And as we pulled up to the place, it was gloomy. And we're standing there for a few minutes and it starts to pour down rain. And we're looking around and like the water's like rising in the river. And me and my friends are like, this isn't like what we do normally. Maybe we should just go home and go to a brewery and just like go chill. And as we're discussing this and we're about to go ask for a refund, the guy comes up to us and he goes, "You guys are looking a little bit nervous. Tell me more about it. What's going on?" And we're like, "Well, it's raining. The river's moving a lot faster than it was 5 minutes ago. We don't want to get hurt. Like, I think we just want a refund." And he goes, "I hear you. I totally understand where you're coming from. And if this was maybe 10 years ago, I would have just given you your money back because it would have been too dangerous to go." And we're like, "Okay, so give us our money back. Like, what's different?" And he goes, "These last 10 years, we've actually perfected our system and we've been able to change people's focus and we've been able to have a 100% success rate with getting people down this river." And we're like, "Okay, tell me more. What is this magic thing that went from accidents to no accidents?" And so he started telling us that before they used to say, like, "Watch out for that rock. Don't hit that tree. Like, don't go over there, like don't drop your paddles, stop worrying." And they would say all these things, but what it made people do is they would unconsciously just focus on the rock and they would drive straight into the rock and they would capsize and turn their boat over, or someone would drop a paddle because they say don't drop a paddle. And what are you thinking about the whole time? You're like, don't drop this thing, don't drop this thing, right? And what
Yeah.
do? You drop it. So we're like, "Okay, so what do you guys do now?" And he goes, "It's a very simple switch. And again, we haven't had any accidents since." He said, "We just change it to do land." We're like, "What's do land?" "We tell you exactly what to do. So we're going to say paddle 3 steps to the right and then paddle forward." And what do people do? They just listen. They go to the right and then they go to forward. Or we say, "Hold on," right? What do people do? They hold on tight, right? Instead of saying let go, don't let go, they hold on. And so do land is very powerful for our dog. And you mentioned it before too, like leave it, drop it, or drop it is do land, but leave it, stop, don't do that thing, right? That's a concept and humans can understand it, but even we don't get it right most of the time. Dogs don't even understand the concept really, right? They need to know what else to do. They're working animals, so we need to help guide them. So the reason why I tell this story is the first step is where focus goes, energy flows. So when we're training, I want to ask you a question. What do you want your dog to do instead of getting in the trash? Would you rather him lay in his bed nicely? Or instead of pulling on leash, would you rather him walk by your side or maybe just look at you more? Well, those are the things that you continue to train. So write it down as you're taking notes. What do I want my dog to do instead when I say stop? That's step one. It's very, very important.
I love that. So you said, "What do I want my dogs?" Let's play the sandbox here, because I think this is
Yeah.
really important for everybody who's watching, and I think it's important. So when you tell your dog to stop, let's say I'm looking over on my dogs right now, they're sleeping away, so they're not doing any negative or bad activities or anything like that. But let's say they
Yeah.
grab a shoe, right? And I feel like that happens
Mhm.
quite a bit, and you want stop. what would you replace that with? What would be your advice, at least preliminary, right? We're not telling you to give away all your secrets here because we want people to pay for you and to join that, but maybe one or two quick tips, maybe from that.
Yeah. So one of the first things that you guys can do is, and I look at dog training kind of like a bank, in a bank in
Mm,
that I'm constantly putting in withdrawals, or I'm constantly taking withdrawals, and I'm constantly putting in deposits. So one of the big things is when your dog takes something and you go to grab them and like grab their collar, there's been a lot of deposits already taken out, or a lot of withdrawals, sorry, taken out of that bank account. So your dog's like, well, every single time he grabs my collar, I get in trouble. Why would I
mm,
go to him? I'm just going to go run around the house.
yeah.
So it starts with just practicing your dog. You can teach them to touch their nose to your hand, or you can just teach them to stick their collar into your hand, right? And we need your dog just to love when you put out your hand, they come running to you, you know? So that's step one. And then step two is you can create a trade with your dog, right? So you want them, like I have a puppy right now, she's 5 months old. She finds the most random things in the backyard. If it's like the tiniest piece of plastic, fine, right? And at first I was frustrated. I was like, why are you always taking the stuff that you shouldn't have, right? But this, and I go, well, it's kind of a blessing because she's kind of picking up the trash for me. All I need to do is teach her to come and drop it, and then I throw it in the trash. So now we play a fun game. She finds something, I call her to me, I grab her collar, I say, drop it. She drops it, and then I put it in the trash, right? And so now I'm like, okay, now I have a trash picker upper.
I love that. I love that you said that. And for everybody who's out there, you're gonna go through these things, and it doesn't matter if you got a puppy, you adopted a dog later in age and things like that. They're just gonna need that time to compress and understand that nothing is a punishment. I think that's the worst thing you could do. Two of our dogs are rescues, man, and just to see like they're still very fearful of life, and just kind of working with them daily and understanding, building that relationship. Like you kind of said, have a positive reinforcement. Like, I like the thing that you said about touching to the nose, because like when I put up kind of my hands, like they come in, they kind of touch it. Some most of the times they're smelling for treats, but there's never any treats there. But then I
Yeah.
think that is so important for everybody to kind of reframe that, right? And you know what? One thing you said there, Brady, that made me realize like how mature you are as a person and as a dog trainer as well, right? Like you saw the opportunity with your puppy that she's picking up the garbage for me, so that's a helpful thing rather than some people will see it as making a mess in the house or not
Yeah.
listening and things like that. But you've trained, so you've kind of said that I want my dog to display these behaviors. I've got to change my mindset on how they would receive those behaviors. Did that come instantly to you? I know you mentioned that you're listening to Tim Ferriss and you kind of going through, and I believe it was the person that you met as well. Like, where did this mindset change for you?
Yeah, that's a really neat question. Because we can go deeper in. I've had to train myself to be this person. I wasn't always like this. I'm the oldest of six, so for the first phase of my life, I was constantly looking to like get my siblings in trouble, like be the older parent for a lot of them, and like I had to be that parent role. And then once I left my house, I was able to kind of calm down from having to be in charge and to look at things a little bit differently. I'm a big Tony Robbins person. There's lots of people out there you can learn from, but mindset is a really powerful thing. And one thing I say a lot, I train myself to say a lot, is first off, I'll call the dogs a goofball. If they do something that makes me upset, I'll be like, "You're such a goofball," right? And it automatically, the language I use, goofball is way different than "you're an idiot," right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Totally different. And goofball presupposes that they're just a little goofy, right? An idiot presupposes that they're stupid, right? And totally different, right? And then the other one I say, and I work with teachers sometimes and families and their kids, and we were training their dog, and he did something weird. I don't even know what it was anymore, but I just go, "Well, that was an interesting behavior," and the mom laughed because she's like a second grade teacher, and she's like, I'm gonna start saying that to all my second graders. Like, instead of being like, "Well, that was stupid," I'm like, "That was interesting. What did you associate to make you want to do that?" Like, okay, and how can I now change this so that you want to do something else first? You know. So yeah, it's takes training and just being a little bit more mindful of your TV. And TV for me means your transformational vocabulary. So the
Mhm.
words that you use are very important.
And I think a lot of people can use that not just with like dog training or animal training, just use it for yourself, like you said, Tony Robbins, and have that mindset. Be kind to yourself, say things that, like let's say if you're working sales, which I work in sales, like if you forgot to make a cold call today, you forgot to do an email, don't be like, oh, I'm so stupid, just be like, okay, well, that was interesting. Why did I do that? And then let's get back on the horse again tomorrow, right? And I think that is so important for everybody who's watching out there because they come from a mix of different backgrounds. I want to get back into Dream because I know today we're gonna get DRE today, and then AM will be in
Yeah.
the QR. But what's
Yeah.
uh what's R, my friend?
Yeah. R is remember. Remember your culture. Now, culture is very important. It's important in a relationship with your spouse, with your kids, with a sports team, right? There's always a culture you want to build, and you want to make sure. I don't know. Have you ever played Monkey in the Middle before?
Oh, we all did. Yeah, I remember that game. Yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome if you were on the outside. If you were in the middle, not so awesome because there's little rules to play by. You run over to one side and they throw it over your head, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna run back over here. They wait till you get close, they throw it over your head. You're like, okay, I'm gonna wait back over here then. And then what do? They just hold the ball, and then right, then you run over to them, and then they throw it over your head. Right? It gets to the point to where you're just like, I quit. I don't want to play this game anymore. It's not fun.
Mhm.
And I've noticed sometimes people have a lot of gray area with their rules. So it's being very clear with if your dog's allowed on the couch or if they're not allowed on the couch, I don't really care. The dogs aren't allowed on my couches because my girlfriend, they're clean, just don't want them messy. But some people love their dogs on their couches. So if that's your rule, then that's your rule, right? Don't sometimes allow your dog on, sometimes not, and then punish them because they don't know the difference between when they're allowed or not.
Yeah.
So remember your culture and remember to be intentional with it and take the time to think through what you want your dog to be doing. If you want your dog to look at you while you're on going on walks, you got to practice these things and put in the time. And the culture is just remembering like easy decisions, hard life, hard decisions, easy life. And so make sure you put that time in so you're not paying for it later.
Yes, yeah, everything you said there, Brady, it's so transferable in everything. Like you're talking about your spouse, your favorite sports team, but like you said, like make those hard decisions and have that easy life. For some
Yeah.
people like myself who have like multi-dog homes, right? We didn't expect that when these dogs came to us that okay, they're just gonna figure it out. Like from us, we had to figure it out, right? Like the biggest
Yeah.
mistake I can honestly say as a dog owner was I was like, okay, well, we got two dogs, let's walk them all together. But then there was distracted and it was just like, did I build up the confidence and did I build up the relationship with the first dog?
Yeah.
So the first dog's fine. So what, even though my heart would break every time I take them for individual walks, but that only lasts as soon as I get out the front door. But like I get to understand that, when I'm taking them for their walks, their individual walks, I get that time with them. And what I've kind of
Yeah.
introduced as well is, okay, they all have their separate walks, but in the morning I'll take two out, maybe for a 5 minute like a sniff test, like it's not a true walk. There's no intentions for the walk in terms of like doing tricks or doing listening or anything like that. It's just like this is your open range. And I want people to understand that, in anything that you do in life, have like remember, you like have that plan that you're gonna do and follow through with it. Right. Like you said, with the dogs on the couch. Everybody they're always iffy, it's how they feel. And it's
Yeah.
just for us, our dogs are they for what it is, my wife and I say we're outnumbered. There's three dogs and just me and my wife. So it's their house. We're just paying rent here. We're just their food dealer.
Yeah.
So they get to not say what they do, what they want to do, because we do set boundaries. And, I think that's just so important because just like I would set a boundary with my wife, I would set a boundary with our dogs, right? Like we have two
Yeah.
non-shedding dogs and we've got a golden retriever. Jackson's
Oh,
not
you
allowed
do?
on the bed, so because
Yeah.
like you don't want to deal with that. So you set that expectation, so I think that is amazing what you're talking about. Remember, so like you said, you got the puppy. How many dogs do you have right now? I think you just have the one.
I have two. So I have a 7-year-old Australian Shepherd, and this other puppy I just got. She's like 5 months old now.
5 months
So
old now. That's awesome, man.
yeah,
How does your and like what I liked with this conversation, we'll weave in like the dream stuff, but I like to have the conversation. I don't want to be like, tell us D, tell us R, tell us E. I want us to
yeah,
weave
yeah, yeah.
conversations. I want to hear a little bit about like you said, your girlfriend in terms of that support factor for you, because I want to get to know Brady the person as well, because we're having all these
Mhm.
amazing things about dog training. We'll get to the dog training, but how do you feel that was? Because like you mentioned, you got your first dog, you're going through that process. process, and then like you found your girlfriend, and then you're kind of like, okay, well, this is another person to the mix. Is the relationship different between your two dogs and you versus like your two dogs with her? Like, what can you talk to me about that?
Yeah, I like this question. It shows kind of the dynamic and some of the things that I focus on. It's it's fun. Things definitely did change adding another person to the mix, and you have to do training with everyone in the family. So, coming when called is the most important thing you can teach your dog. So we just practice like going back and forth between both of us and transferring some of the value from me to her. And luckily, me being who I am, I take like full reign on most dog stuff. So like I'm making sure they're walked, I'm making sure they're fed, I'm making sure that they're growing mentally. There's really like nothing she's got to do for them besides just like play some of these games with me. But it's interesting. We have a guinea pig too, and I already have my hands full with the dog, so I made sure. And I'm the oldest, right? I understand responsibility, and I'm like, okay, you're the primary caretaker of the guinea pig. So she handles the guinea pig stuff most of the time, and I take care of the dog stuff. And the guinea pig, I taught her some training stuff so that she can follow the target, stick around, and when we knock on the side, she runs up to her second story, and we'll give her like a little carrot or some bell peppers, and then she's just fun, right? And so we got this new puppy, and then so the conversation was like, whose puppy is this? Right? Because like Bumblebee, he's mine. Like I had him before the relationship. And the new puppy, she's like, she's mine. I was like, no, she's mine. Like I want this dog. This is like my dream dog. She's a mini Aussie Doodle. So she's just like the Australian Shepherd with the non-shedding. She's just brilliant, and she's really driven too. She's really fast. So we've agreed that she's shared, right? And so I am handing off some of the responsibilities to my girlfriend, meaning like sometimes I don't do the training with her because I'm boarding two dogs right now, so there's four dogs in the house, and so I'm like, hey, can you take her to the backyard and do some training with her and just play with her? So it's giving her some more time to build a relationship with this dog because dogs really do, they form the connection when you help them grow. Humans too, if you can help someone grow from like one phase of their life to the next phase, they'll remember it forever. And dogs are the same way. If you help them overcome a fear, if you help them to teach them how to paint, like this pig I taught was extremely fearful, now she loves people because they paint with her all the time, right? And so just doing these things with them has allowed my girlfriend just a better connection with the dog, and
Yeah.
the dog a better connection with her too. So it's a fun house. Things are always moving and going on.
Yeah, that's the one thing. When you have multiple dogs, they're always going in. I want the audience to really take that in that, every time I kind of go on TikTok and then like see all the memes, like there's always like, hey, left with the other one, right? So in my relationship, my wife is the other one, like because I work from home, and it's always gonna be who spends most time with the dogs. I think that's
Yeah.
what it really comes down to, right? So anytime like I go to work, like after work in the evenings or something like that, and there's kind of stuck, she'll send me the pictures and like they're there looking downstairs for me and stuff like that. But I think that's a great conversation to have because you're gonna have that one person who does lead. I don't think that it can truly be even me personally when it comes to dog training. I don't have kids yet, so maybe I'm completely wrong. But I
Yeah.
just think like when it comes to like dogs specifically, they want to grow, they want to learn, they want that comfort, they want to love. And they just show that. And we all, and like you said, with your training, you can truly have turn any dog into your dream dog, and that for you. What was so like you mentioned, you had like your dogs. What was the journey on like with your first set of like clients and stuff like that, and kind of like thinking about, okay, these are different breeds, and you mentioned the story about the second grade teacher and like changing that mindset. How does progress look for you as a dog trainer?
Yeah. You have to meet the dog where they're at, and each dog is going to come with its own baggage, for lack of a better word. And yet, I've worked with pigs and goats and turkeys and sheep and guinea pigs, and so humans too, and all of their brains work exactly the same way. So you have to understand, like some dogs are aggressive, and some dogs are very scared. Some dogs like to run away. You got like fight, flight, or freeze as the typical like reptilian type brain. And my goal for them is to connect and appreciate their world first, right? I need to understand like what scares you, what do you love, where's the leverage that I have to help, right? Do you like playing with toys? Do you like going to the park? Do you like pet? Do you like food? Whatever it is, I need to find that leverage, and connect with them. And once I can connect with them and find that leverage, then I can start asking them different questions, right? And it's as simple as like if I put a food bowl down, if they try to take the food out of the food bowl, I can just cover the food bowl for them. I don't got to tell them no. I don't got to do anything. I just change the environment a little bit and I cover it. And they
Nice.
go, that was weird. What just happened? And then they back up and I say, good. And I give them a treat. And then they're like, oh, I don't take what I want. I back away from what I want. So I start changing some of their thoughts about what things mean to them. Or if someone knocks on the door, the dogs run to the door normally. But knocking on the door could easily mean that they run to their bed instead. They just haven't had that idea yet. And my job is to show them that, hey, there's a lot more value over here. It's like a scale, right? And I'm constantly balancing, okay, there's a ton of value at the front door. How do I make the bed even more valuable? Um, and I use people strategically. So someone knocks on my door and the dogs come running, they don't open the door, right? So the dog's like, well, this isn't as cool anymore. What do I got to do? And then they run to their beds and then the door opens and then they get off their beds and run to the door and then the door shuts. And then they're like,
Oh.
what just happened? And then they run back to the door and then the door opens, right? And now you got this tennis match going back and forth. But you first got to meet the dog where they're at and you have to understand kind of what their triggers are.
I need to do that. I need to practice that. It's like our rescue Millie. She barks at everything. Poor thing. But I literally have a sign, like a note on like our Amazon orders, like in the comments. Do
Okay.
not ring doorbell.
Yep.
Dogs will go crazy. So they always just leave it at the front door. But I love what you just said. That. So the biggest lesson that I'm gonna get from this, and I want the audience as well, like pick up on the things that Brady's saying because for myself, I'm gonna practice with my wife. When she gets home, like okay, ring the doorbell. Nothing's gonna happen. And just let them kind of like be and have that game and work on it every single day. So I think that is so spectacular and that's such a good mindset to have.
Yeah, it's fun. I want to go into even more details with you and just tell you like all the steps to it. It's like my first lesson. It's the first thing that I talk about. And we just run back and forth. I'll like knock on the door and like I'll say pup, 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 and the dog will run over to their bed and like it's just desensitizing them to what this knock means. And I'm just like all the time. And then now they're in their crates, right? If I knock on the thing, then I go and drop a treat in all of their crate. And so I knock, they just run to their crates most of the time.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
It's super cool.
It's super cool to kind of
But
see that
just
because yeah, it's that relationship, right? Because myself, I think, as a dog owner, and you're gonna get this, and you've already gotten this, and we're not just gonna keep the dogs because, like you've mentioned multiple times on this thing, that you've worked with like turkeys and goats and sheep and all that stuff. So
yeah.
it's just animals in general. So we'll reframe that and we'll talk about animals in general. But being able to like go outside and really bond with them because a lot of people, do you get this a lot, Brady, where they're like, oh, at home they're an angel, they're the best dog in the world, but when they go outside they're a demon or they're something else. What are your thoughts
Yeah.
on something like that, and have that conversation with people?
It, intention, right? Most of the time, you do a lot of training at home, and there's no training outside. So that's what your dog learns. And dogs, they just follow whatever you guys are doing normally. So you got to be intentional and take this same training that you do and go other places and go do it too, right? You can find parks to do it at. You go to Home Depot. You could go to Walmart. I've been to IKEA, Best Buy. I've been to all sorts of different places with dogs, and it's just doing the same things again. And
Mm.
another point on that, like people in their professions, I'm assuming that they can speak about what they're doing pretty well on a one-on-one basis with someone. And then if I were to add 10 people to that mix, maybe they'll get a little bit more uncomfortable, but if they're good at what they do, they could keep talking. If I put them in a stadium with 30,000 people, guess what? It might all go out the back door, because emotionally you're just so overwhelmed that you're back in your reptilian fight, flight, or freeze brain, and you're not using your thinking, your prefrontal cortex, right? And so part of it is, guess what? You got to go speak in front of lots of people a few times and practice these things before you're good at it as well as you are at home.
You're speaking my language, brother. I'm a big Toastmasters guy. So I
Oh,
meet
are
with
you? I
Toastmasters.
like it.
Yeah, everyone's actually won a speech competition 2 weeks ago.
Oh,
It
congrats.
was my first couple months there, and it's so great that you say that. Find out something that you're not so good at and what kind of scares you, and go do more of it. I think, like you
Yeah.
said, hard decisions, easy life from there. All right. So, like I
And you
said,
made,
man, I
real quick,
yeah, go on.
sorry. You
No,
made a great point. Go find someone to teach you. Go join Toastmasters. Go do someone who's already doing it at a high level, because if you just go try to do it without anyone, it could be even worse. Like, you got to go find a mentor to go learn, because that's how it works.
you really do, and you bring up a great point by saying that, because a lot of people during the pandemic specifically, they wanted to like learn how to play keyboard, they want to learn how to play guitar, they pick up all these amazing things, and the reason why they didn't stick with it is because they went to like YouTube University, right? They didn't have somebody like, especially if you're learning to play guitar, you need somebody
Yeah.
there to actually teach you like the positioning of the strings, of going on the frets, and basically have that guide even to kind of start you off, right? And that's what we recommend to people. I tell people being in the rescue world, it's great that you want to go get training, but don't expect your dog to be a great dog for you if you're gonna only spend like $100 at like a PetSmart or like a Pet Value, training. Like, yes, that might work for some people, but it works for people who keep on doing repeating it. But if you want to set yourself up for your dog for your best life, your dream dog, like as Brady says, invest in the time, because what do you
Yeah.
think? Like, it's like a 12 to 14-year commitment, right? Like,
Oh,
why
for sure.
wouldn't you
The
want to
life of
invest
your
in that?
dog.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. And even for me, just so you guys know, I still have teachers. Like, I just paid $6,000 to join a speaking mentorship to learn from Nick Santanastaso, right? And so, like, I'm even taking, there's more things and more things to learn. And so even if you are on YouTube learning right now, I started there too. I'm not going to shame people for going on YouTube, because it works, right? You can learn chords and stuff. But the biggest thing about having a teacher is accountability. Like, and
Mm,
I would imagine you probably don't go write speeches, award-winning speeches on your own, right? Someone told you, like, think about this topic, go write this thing, show up on Wednesday and be ready to present. Without that accountability, you don't do stuff a lot of the times. You get manana syndrome. I'll do it tomorrow.
yeah, yeah. It's like I actually just did a podcast, and we were just talking about the same thing of like people like,
Really?
as the next couple months are coming up, new year, new me, year page one of 365, back in the gym, it's just, just start today, and like everybody who's watching out, we could talk about animal training, dog training like that, but from my thing, my key points that I've taken away from conversations, how many things I can translate into my own personal, professional, spiritual, mental life, everything that we're saying here, because they're all transferable. So as we're coming up, like I said, man, we gotta do this more. I'm thoroughly enjoying this conversation because you are
Same.
awesome and the conversation. But we do have to end. But with that being said, like we said, we don't want to leave everybody empty-handed. So let's finish off with the E, my friend.
Yes. E means effective execution. Now, let me ask you, if you know the digits to someone's number, but you don't know the order, can you call them? You can't. Or if you know the recipes in the cake, but you don't know, or if you know the ingredients in a cake, but you don't know the recipe or the order, it doesn't come out looking like a cake. So sequence matters a lot. Johnny bit the dog, and the dog bit Johnny. Same exact words, radically different outcome. So we want our dog to understand that the faster they do what we want, the faster they get what they want, which means that we have to stay away from bribing our dog, and we have to stay away from intimidating our dog. We want them to be in a place of growth um, and confidence. So the easiest way to understand this is really, it's the phone number example. If you just understand that you got to do things in the right order. But if you were just to take your hand, and if you were to wave to your dog, and then they were come investigate your hand, and then you drop a treat in, your dog, every time you put out your hand, they're going to come touch your hand, right? And then you reward them by putting them a treat, giving them a treat. Now, if you were to just hold the treat and stick out your hand, your dog is going to look at it and go, do you got the chicken or do you got the kibble? And then your dog is going to make a different decision depending on what you got. So we want to make sure that the value is being transferred to us. Like, we put out our hand, they come to us, and then we reward them for good behavior, rather than trying to bribe our dog or intimidate our dog to do what we say. effective execution. It's important.
Effective execution. And I think, it relates back to your first point with D when you're talking about, like, when you and your friends went on that trip, and when they said that they switched their mindset, of like, okay, take these four, go right and then go left and then stop here. Those were the rules, not the rules, but those were the journey itself, right? And I think that is so important, and that correlates with remember, and it correlates exactly with this as well. So I love that. I can't wait to learn A&M. So we'll do that on a future podcast some other time, and
I love
looking
it.
forward to it. So Brady, can't thank you enough, brother. This has been so cool. Like I said, from our pre-chat, it's been all really good vibes. I like everything that you're doing. Did some research on you. Thought it was really, really cool that what you're doing. But so let the audience know. Let them know a little bit more about yourself. Let them know how they can get a hold of you, and what does 2024 look like for you?
If you want more information about me, you can follow me on Instagram. It's ND Dog Training. We'll have a link. I'm going to get you a QR code to add later too, so you can download a little PDF guide of this dream formula too. 2024 for me is more podcasts, more speaking on stages, getting my name out so other people see that there's many ways to do dog training, right? And just to give people another option, a better option, a more elegant option in order to train their dog. So you'll see me out talking on podcasts, speaking on stages, and just helping more and more people.
There we go, baby. Serve as we go, lift as you climb. So thank you again, Brady. Thank you to our amazing audience, and tune in next week for an amazing episode of the Logistics Monk Show. Take care, everybody.